I could take a battle, but to death you will perish. The cold is coming. You grow more pathetic every moment that passes.
What's going on, guys? Boss Squirrel here with another Borderlands 4 video. Today I want to share an Onslaughter Amon build, which is basically his red skill tree. And we're only going to focus mainly on his melee skills, and the reason why I picked Onslaughter as my main action skill is because I just personally find it the most fun out of all his action skills. Well, you can go with whatever action skill you want when focusing on melee. You can go with Scourge, which is the blue skill tree, or the Crucible, which is under the green skill tree with your Forge Axis. But again, I picked Onslaughter because I don't want to keep running to enemies just to pummel them in the face. The dash from Onslaughter really helps in closing the distance. And before getting into the details of the build, please consider following my channel if you find this video helpful, and hit that notification bell to be notified of any upcoming videos. And thank you in advance. Alright, so without further ado, let's get right into the build. Okay, so before discussing the skill tree, well, to all the melee players out there, we all know that it's not really our melee passive skills that gives us insane damage, but it's just actually the infinite stacking and groundbreaker. Here, as you can see, non-melee attack damage and slam damage are stored. Melee attacks and slam deal bonus kinetic melee damage based on stored damage and consume it. And this is going to be nerfed on the next patch or update, as mentioned by Gearbox, so might as well just enjoy it while you still can. And by the way, speaking of Groundbreaker, you won't be able to infinitely stack Groundbreaker with just raw melee damage, because as you can see here, only non-melee attack damage can store Groundbreaker. So when going full melee, in order for you to infinitely stack Groundbreaker, is you need to boost your bonus damage, which is basically your bonus elemental damage. And one important skill here is going to be Berserk. As you can see, whenever Amon activates his Forge skill, he becomes Berserk for a duration, gaining slow immunity and bonus cryo damage with gun damage and melee damage. So, oh, by the way, we're going to go full red tree here. We're not going to put points on the blue or the green tree, just the red tree. So first, we're going to put 5 points on Discombobulate for melee critical hit chance. Next is Tritanium Knuckles for melee damage and skill damage. 3 points on Gut Punch for our melee attacks to weaken our enemies for more damage dealt and reduce damage taken. Next is 1 point on Forge and Steel for immunity whenever we activate our Forge skill, which is nice for survivability. Next is 1 point in the best defense for Overshield whenever we deal melee damage. 1 point is enough because we're gonna deal insane damage anyways because of Groundbreaker. And of course, Berserk. And we're gonna go down to There Is Only Red. As you can see, it's a kill skill. Whenever Amon kills an enemy while Berserk is active, partially restores Berserk's duration and increase bonus cryo damage. And as you can see, the max stacks you can get is 600%, which is a lot. And of course, when bossing, we need My Touch's Death. As you can see, whenever Amon deals melee damage, there is chance to activate kill skills. So I just placed 2 points here in Brimming Vigor for more melee damage and health capacity. And of course, max out My Touch's Death. Next is 5 points on Into the Fray for more damage dealt and damage reduction based on our distance from our enemy. Next is 5 points on Harbinger, another kill skill. More melee damage and shield capacity, which is nice. And by the way, going back to Groundbreaker, there's a downside though with Groundbreaker. Groundbreaker infinitely stacks with flesh and armor, which is basically red and yellow health bars. However, it doesn't stack with blue health bars, which is basically shields when going the melee build. As you can see here on my boss fight with Orgo, he's actually the boss that I had the hard time with when going the melee build, because it doesn't Groundbreaker doesn't seem to stack up properly with shields. So in order to make it up for it, is we need also to boost our shock damage. So I put points on Catastrophe. As you can see, whenever Amon applies shock to an enemy, he gains increased critical hit chance, and whenever Amon applies burning to an enemy, increased critical hit damage. And in order for you to apply shock while Onslaughter is active, is we need to get down here. As you can see, electrical fire. Whenever Amon burns an enemy, he also shocks them, and whenever Amon shocks an enemy, he also burns them. So I place 5 points on Fist of Stone. Whenever Amon deals melee damage, restore a percentage of Forge skill cooldown, which is nice, so that we can always take advantage of Forge and Steel. Next is 1 point in electrical fire, and that's it. That's it for the skill. And by the way, another thing to boost our shock damage is the shield that we're gonna use is gonna be the Watts for Dinner. It's not gonna be the heavyweight, because this is just raw melee damage, which isn't really good in stacking up Groundbreaker. I find Watts for Dinner to be better, actually the best, for stacking up Groundbreaker, because as you can see, when Overshield is active, grants 25% shock damage. So that is still considered as 25% bonus shock damage, so it kind of helps in dealing with shields. So, by the way, going back to the action skill on Slaughter, when mobbing, the augment that I use is Pyroclast. The reason for that is because it restores our action skill duration whenever we kill an enemy, which is nice. But when bossing, I switch to Fellfrost, as you can see. Immediately after a Rocket Punch causes Amon to use a follow-up attack, dealing cryo melee attack damage. So it's pretty good in bossing. And for the Capstone, we're using Stormcutter. Just mainly because whenever we activate our Forge skill, it restores our action skill duration, which is good both in mobbing and bossing. Alright, now going to the gear. Again, when dealing with shielded bosses, you'll want a Watts for Dinner and also a Sleepy Grenade. Because basically, for example, what I do when bossing is I activate my Forge skill, and then I activate my action skill, and then throw those Sleepy Grenades in order to stack up Groundbreaker. By the way, Sleepy Grenades do not activate the regular melee attack from Groundbreaker, because it's not really considered as a melee attack. The melee attack from Groundbreaker is only counts with your regular melee punch. whether that's a regular melee attack or a melee attack from your action skill. Okay, so now going to the weapons, it doesn't really matter what weapon you have, but I'm not sure if the blazing barrel from Hot Slugger works when mobbing. As you can see, blazing barrel on kill deal 30% damage for 10 seconds for a maximum of 3 stacks. I'm not sure if it works, but anyways, any weapon will work. It's gonna be Groundbreaker anyways. That's gonna give you a lot of damage. Next, for the rep kit, I just use a mini triple bypass. Just mainly because so we can get our action skill back up whenever it goes on cooldown. Also specific, preferably with the hard hitter augment. As you can see, on use grants increased melee damage dealt by 40% for 10 seconds. And again, for the ordnance, we're using a sleeper grenade. And for the class mod, we're using a shadow rake. The forge waves isn't important because we're not gonna go blue tree. But the reason why we're using shadow rate is because it gives extra points on berserk. As you can see here, my shadow rate gives extra 5 points on berserk, which severely, significantly increases our bonus cryo damage, which is nice. All right, now again for the shield, we're using Watts for dinner, and for the enhancement, it's not really important as long as you get a gun damage passive. And for the firmware, I'm using 2 points on Action Fist for more melee damage and action skill damage, 2 points on Real Big Fist for more melee damage, and just 1 point on Goo JFC just for action skill cooldown rate, which is, it also kind of helps. Okay, and now going to the specializations. Bare arms for more melee damage based on our gun damage, 50% of gun damage. I am a gun for action skill damage, 50%. It benefits from our gun damage as well, because your melee attacks while Onslaughter is active also counts as action skill damage, which is nice. And of course, Groundbreaker, and now with caffeine. As you can see, reduce action skill cooldown whenever a rep kit is activated. So that's really good. It synergizes well with triple bypass. Okay, so that's it for the build. So if you find this guide helpful, please consider liking and subscribing, and hit that notification bell for more videos to come. And you guys have a good day. Bye-bye.